Welcome back to Get to Know Rorius 2020 Christmas Special. I don't know what I'm calling this, so I'm just gonna keep giving it new names until I inevitably make a decision once I start editing. So, this video today is going to be a My Collection video. Recently, I have been going out of my way, for some reason or another. I just got the lust for it. I've been going out of my way to get old classic PS1 games. We don't have eBay here, or any other kind of, trade system that is known internationally, but we have our own system called Trade Me, which is basically, your go-to local auction house for trading random goods. And so I've been picking up a bunch of classic PS1 games, and I want to show you guys my little humble collection. So, ignore the mess. These are my shelves, by the way. I probably could have shown off more than just my collection of PS1 games or whatever, because I have a collection of all sorts of stuff. But, just recently I've been picking up a bunch of new games for PS1, so I wanted to show you guys what I currently have. I'll sit down on the floor so I can get a closer shot. Shall we do this in alphabetical order? That might be the best option. So, we're starting off. This is a game that my brother and I used to play all the time. It's Anna Kournikova Smash Court Tennis. It was just a crappy tennis game. It was fun though. It had a lot of cool game modes. And then we've got Ape Escape. This is an awesome classic PS1 game. Basically, the premise is that these apes have escaped. These apes have escaped. That's it. Moving on. The apes have escaped some sort of containment system. There's being tests being done, and there's a lead ape who is running the show, and giving them all hyper intelligence via these little caps, and you have to run around and capture them through time. Sorry if the voice is all muffled at the moment. I just realized I'm holding my camera in a bad way. Then up next, I have a very second-hand. This isn't one that we used to have. A very second-hand copy. Hence the piece of paper. You can't even see it. Bugs and Taz Time Busters. Bugs Bunny and Taz Time Busters. This is an old game that's you'd think it would just be some crappy Looney Tunes game, But a bunch of the PS1 era Looney Tunes games are really actually very cool and have lots of innovative gameplay ideas. This game was just a really cool two-player puzzle game, platformer game with two players in mind. You went through a bunch of cool, interesting areas with really cool mechanics. Each character, one player plays as Bugs Bunny and one player plays as Taz the Tasmanian Devil, right? Yeah, not the tiger, not Tasmanian tiger, Tasmanian Devil. I think so. Each character gains new powers as you go through the game, and it's just a really cool sort of platform puzzler. Almost got Metroidvania-esque styles to it. And then we've got Crash Bandicoot 1. This is our copy. This is a copy we've owned for years and years and years. It's a bit disheveled, but it is a platinum classic fat case Crash Bandicoot. Tough as nails, but I loved the shit out of it. Used to have a bunch of codes for all for getting through to the end of the game. People didn't necessarily have memory cards, so they allowed you to put in a code that would get you to wherever you were up to in the game. So it'd be some crazy 26 characters, 26 button presses that would unlock exactly your progress throughout the game. Yeah. This is all in alphabetical order, so because I'm a pedantic like that. So Crash Bandicoot 2. This is actually a recent acquisition. We played the shit out of Crash Bandicoot 2 back in the day, but we never owned a copy of it ourselves. So recently, this was one of the things I got on Trade Me. There was a crack across the front, but this was a really cheap version. Most Crash Bandicoot 2s, for some reason, are going for really expensive prices, especially if you want the black non-platinum version. So I just got this was I think $20-25 for the platinum version, which I was very happy, very willing to spend. Then we have Crash Bandicoot Warped. This is our original copy, complete with huge crack across the front. This is a non-platinum classic black case version. I should be opening these up to show off the manuals. So it's got this is the PAL version, by the way. These are all PAL version of these discs. the NTSC versions have different prints on here and different covers. I personally prefer the PAL version of the cover for these games. I like the cover for Warped more than the NTSC cover for Warped. But of course, nostalgia probably plays a factor in that. Yeah, as you would see, like Bugs and Taz didn't have manual or cover. Crash Bandicoot 1, we still had the manual cover, which clearly been taped in because it probably kept falling out. And that would have been my brother's doing, which friggin' brings the value of it down. It's got the original manual, but platinum disc. Oh my god, Ape Escape isn't in its case. And of course, the manual and disc of Anna Kournikova. Another game that we never... Well, I think we just lost the case for. CTR. This is a freaking classic. I'm so glad we still have the disc, but I'm so sad that we lost everything else for it. Back in the day when people would play these games, you know, PS1 era, people used to borrow games all the time. So, my brother would let one of his friends borrow one of our games. Wait. My brother would let one of his friends borrow one of our games, and they'd return it, or my friends, if I let my friends borrow it, they'd return it with stuff missing, with stuff damaged, all the time. I don't know why I tolerated that. Anyway, we got Crash Bash. Unfortunately, the hinge at the top is broken, but, yeah, so it, like, falls out. It's got the manual, which has got a Spyro Year of the Dragon thing on the back of it. I don't want to pull it out because I'll damage it, but you can see there's the manuals in the front there, and the Crash Bash. I don't know if Crash Bash went platinum, so I don't know if there is a platinum version of this game, but we have the original. It's probably the rarest of the Crash Bandicoots from PS1, but people sell the Crash Bandicoot 2 for huge prices, despite the fact that Crash Bandicoot 2 was very popular. It's just that Crash Bandicoot 1 and 3 were probably more so. And then we've got Croc. Interesting random backstory. Oh, I gotta take this freaking sticker off. Oh, that's right. I went to take the sticker off. This is a recent acquisition. I went to take this sticker off here, but it's freaking attached to this the G label here. So if I take this off, it's gonna rip the G label. Very frustrating. Yeah, recent acquisition. Croc, game once again I played a ton as a kid, but we never owned a copy of it for whatever reason. And so yeah, got myself just a cheaper Platinum Edition. I'm not really too concerned about getting the Black Label versions of these games, because I'm more about owning the disc, you know, I'm more about owning the game for myself. Oh, right, I was going to say, before we move on, it's Croc. Interesting random story about Croc, is that Croc was originally going to be Yoshi. Croc, the Legend of the Gobbos, was not going to be an independent IP. Originally, Croc was supposed to be Yoshi on a 3D platforming game for Nintendo. But, much like a lot of developers around the time, Nintendo, for whatever reason, just decided, nah, we're not gonna approve the game, even though we were behind the project. Nintendo was just like, no, we're not interested in it anymore, and they just dropped the developer. The developer just like basically reskinned everything, changed it from Yoshi to their own character, made it more crocodile looking instead of dragon looking, and made their own story out of it, and it became really popular on PlayStation. Funnily enough, that's basically the same story as the Sony PlayStation itself, and for this next game. Final Fantasy VII. Originally, Final Fantasy was always on Nintendo. Yeah, so this is once again a Platinum Edition, because we got a PlayStation a little later than some, so a lot of games were already out. A lot of games were already Platinum by the time we knew about them. This is like a fat double disc, because this game comes with three... Oh, God. This game comes with 3 discs. We've got the first disc there. Got the manual. Oh, God. I'll get it out. Got the manual there. Oh. What's this? This isn't what's supposed to be in here. That's a good reason for going through a few discs and stuff. Is that Final Fantasy VIII? What's Final Fantasy VIII doing in the Final Fantasy VII box? And there's disc 2 and disc 3 of Final Fantasy VII. So one second, I'm gonna put the Final Fantasy VIII disc in the Final Fantasy VIII box. Yeah, so as I was saying, Final Fantasy VII, my brother loved the shit out of this game. I could never really get into it as a kid because it was a bit much for me. I was a bit too young for it. But I really loved watching him play it. Final Fantasy VII has a sort of a close place in my heart for that. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII, yeah, brother played the shit out of that game. And then next up, we've got Final Fantasy VIII. Oh, and yeah, quick story about Final Fantasy while we're fixing the discs for Final Fantasy VIII is, oh, what the heck? Do we have just like a bonus disc? Because our Final Fantasy VIII is not... Huh. Unless it's a demo? Holy shit, it's not even one of the regular discs. Huh, I'll put it back in Final Fantasy VII then. So yeah, as I was saying, before we move on to Final Fantasy VIII, when Squaresoft went to make Final Fantasy VII, I don't exactly remember what happened on Nintendo's side, but basically Squaresoft was done with dealing with Nintendo, because they'd always been a Nintendo, you know, game developer. But then they just were like, fuck Nintendo. They made Final Fantasy VII for Windows PC as well as PlayStation, and it did really well on PlayStation. It was like one of the biggest hits on PlayStation. This is Final Fantasy VIII. This is the next game in the line, which I love this game, personally. But yeah, so they ended up releasing stuff on PlayStation, and they did really well. And yeah, so there's so much of Sony and PlayStation's world comes from people who were treated poorly by Nintendo, and they just like were like, fuck Nintendo, let's do their own thing, and they became really popular because of it. Nintendo has not got a good track record for keeping its developers happy, or for keeping its players happy. Well, the non-diehard anything for Nintendo players, that is. Alright, before I move on to Final Fantasy IX, yeah, Final Fantasy VIII, I played the shit out of this. This is the one I played the most. Still never finished it, because I was too young and stupid. And I just never returned to it for long enough to finish it either. But Final Fantasy VIII was the one that I first properly played. I didn't play 7 much. This was my jam. I frickin' loved this game. I love the aesthetic. Oh, this isn't even closed properly. Oopsies. I loved the, like, crossover old and new stuff. Like, you had swords and fantasy monsters, but then you had, like, cars and high-tech stuff. There's a freaking space station in one part of the game. So yeah, I loved the mixture of magic, modern time stuff, as well as fantasy. This is a really cool game, in my opinion. And then we've got Final Fantasy IX, which is, I never really played this myself. It was more of the high fantasy style, which is not really my style. My brother loves this game, though. This is his absolute favorite Final Fantasy game. And a lot of people who are more hardcore fans of Final Fantasy say that this is their favorite. A lot of the old school, like, PlayStation 1 era Final Fantasy lovers say this is their absolute favorite. And, like, old school Final Fantasy fans probably say 6 or 3, but for PS1 era, 9 is most people's favorite. I personally prefer 8 over 9. I probably prefer 9 over 7, though. Just overall, though. Now, next up is another recent acquisition. Gex 3D. Once again, no, like, cover, no manual. I just wanted a copy of this crazy old game. But Gex 3D is a crazy, silly game. And it's got a back cover, which is cool. Not very many people bought this game. It was very low, you know, it's like a cult classic at this point. I freaking loved this game, even as stupid and silly as it was. I rented it a bunch of times from rental places, but we never owned it. We never bought it. Next game is a game I never played, or I might have played a couple times, but Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo is a PlayStation, like, staple at this point. Gran Turismo still exists, and they're still making them, despite the fact that Gran Turismo 1 came out on PS1 right at launch, I think. And every Gran Turismo since has been on PlayStation, and has been more and more intense. Yeah, I'll open it up just for the sake of it. I don't know why it has a fat case. Apparently it has 2 discs. This is disc 1, with the manual. I'm not even going to bother showing off the manual. It has a second manual? I've never seen a game with a second manual. I don't remember it having a second manual. But yeah. My brother really liked Gran Turismo 2. But he was never really much of a car fan himself. So I'm not sure why he liked Gran Turismo 2. But he liked Gran Turismo 2, and a bunch of my friends like Gran Turismo. I was never a fan of cars. I was about to call them vehicles. That's how much of a non-fan of vehicles I am. Next up, we've got Medal of Honor Underground. I believe this was the second Medal of Honor game. I played this a bunch. Do we not have the manual anymore? Oh shit. This is one that, yeah, this is one we've owned for years. We owned it back in the PS1 era. And it's got a bit of cracks and usage and stuff. I played quite a bit of this. I was never really a huge fan of, like, war games like these. But I did play this quite a bit. As you'll notice, R16, I played it as a kid. Next up, one of my absolute favorites, Medieval. I adore this game. As you will have seen, if you watched the Medieval remake video I did, I did, I loved this game. This game came out before we really had a PlayStation, so we couldn't get the regular version, we could only get the Platinum at the time. But I played this game to death. It has a cheat code that is... I have no idea how many that was. I wasn't actually counting it. 25 characters long that I remember off by heart to this day. I don't remember the left and rights because I always confused them as a kid, but I remember the sequence goes triangle, circle, circle, triangle, sideways, circle, up, down, sideways, circle, sideways, triangle, sideways, circle, sideways, triangle, circle, down, circle, sideways. Every sideways is the opposite of the previous. So as long as you start on the right side, it doesn't matter which one, you just alternate between the two. So if you start with left, then it's, triangle, circle, triangle, left, circle, up, down, right, circle, left, right, triangle, left, circle, left, right, triangle, circle, down, circle, right? Something like that, I forget exactly. Whatever the case, I played the shit out of it. Go watch my Medieval playthrough. I'll try and remember to put it up here. I'll put the playlist up there. Now, Medieval 2. This is a recent acquisition because I have a little mini story about this. I loved this game. I borrowed it from a friend a bunch. A friend of mine owned it. I absolutely adored this game, just like the first one. Probably not as much as the first one, but I adored it a lot as well. For some reason, I could never find it in store when it was like at the height of its popularity. It never went to Platinum, I don't think, so it was never as popular as the first, but at least I don't think it went to Platinum. Whatever the case, it's a relatively rare game to find. But I actually didn't get it at too bad a price, thankfully. There's a story about this. I couldn't find it. I was looking for it for years as a kid. Even as a kid, I was like looking for it in stores. And there was this one time where I found the game in an EB Games, which is basically GameStop for New Zealand. They're actually owned. They were and are owned by GameStop. So they're actually an American company. There was one random EB Games that I came across when I was like 8 or something. It was a few years after this game had been out. It had gone from shelves. I just happened to stumble upon one copy of Medieval 2 in this one EB Games, and I begged my mom to try and get, tried to beg my parents to get it for me. But it was like $50 in store, and, for an old game, that was like quite a bit. They weren't interested in buying it for me. I didn't have $50, and neither did my brother. Didn't seem to be interested in buying it either. So I left, and I remember at the time saying something, or at least thinking something along the lines of, I'm never going to see that game in store again. And sure enough, I never saw it again. So finding it on Trade Me, like a good, like, black cover, like decent condition, like nice smooth case, no cracks or anything. Finding that on Trade Me, I had to snap it up. Anyway, okay, moving on. We've got Metal Gear Solid. Once again, another game we played to death. This is actually a recent acquisition, despite the fact that we actually owned Metal Gear Solid when I was younger. I don't know what happened to the case that we had, or that... I still have yet to clean the sticker up. There's a sticker on it, and it freaking ripped and tore. I need to put some, like, rubbing, like, some ethyl alcohol or something on that and rub all the glue off of that. But anyway, this game, once again, played it to death. It's a classic of PlayStation. My brother played it more than I did, but I loved this game as well. But then I'm pretty certain what happened, the reason that we don't have it, or we didn't have it until I recently got this, is that, once again, I was talking about borrowing games. I'm pretty certain my brother let one of his friends borrow our Metal Gear Solid, and we just never got it back. So, that was forever lost. It was forever lost from our collection. But I got a new copy of it, so that's alright. Now, I'm gonna bring these both out. The Oddworld games. These are my some of my absolute favorite games of all time. Actually, I should bring out this as well. If I open this up, you'll see. Oh god. You'll see Ridge Racer Type 4 Collector's Demo. I don't care about that. I kind of want to sell that now that I've been going on Trade Me myself. You'll see Oddworld's Abe's Odyssey. This copy, this disc, was unfortunately, much like my brother's friends stealing our copies of things like Metal Gear Solid, I accidentally, I really mean it when I say accidentally, I accidentally stole a friend's copy of Abe's Odyssey. He never played it, so he never mentioned it, he never missed it, seemingly. But the only reason I've owned Abe's Odyssey on disc is because it's a friend's copy. If he ever got in contact with me again, I haven't actually seen him in years. If he got in contact with me and asked me for it, I would happily give it back to him. But I just don't see him anymore. He's like one of those friends that's just lost to time. But because I never owned an actual copy of it, I recently picked this up from Trade Me. I spent a pretty penny on this copy because Oddworld Abe's Odyssey is a rare item to find. Manual in like pristine condition with the classic print. I think you can get this platinum. Oh, did this go platinum? This might not have gone platinum. So any copy of it is like really valuable. But yeah, it's such good condition that I was very happy to pick that one up. Loved that game, but never properly owned it. On the other hand, Oddworld Abe's Exodus was one of the first games on PlayStation that I ever played. This was probably like game 2 or 3, with Crash Bandicoot 3 being like the first game I ever played. This case is mangled because of how used it is. The discs still work, and they're still in good condition, relatively speaking. I was very sad, though, that the cover of the manual fell off. All the manual's still there, most of it's still there. It's got such cool art in it. I was so sad when the cover fell off years ago. I think we still have the cover somewhere, but yeah, I don't know where it is. I'd have to find it. But yeah, it's very damaged. Both hinges fell off. I'm tempted to get like another copy of this just so I have a pristine, fresh copy because it's, as I said, probably one of my like top games of my entire life. One of my absolute favorites. So it's that is why that is why I'm really sad that the Oddworld Inhabitants, the developers of the game, or Just Add Water is the sub developer, they're not making a remake of Abe's Exodus. They made a remake of Abe's Odyssey that was super faithful, but Abe's Exodus's remake is not being made like a faithful remake. They're reimagining it, and that's really sad to me because so much of that game I loved. So much of Exodus like informed my tastes in just everything, gaming and otherwise. The fact that they're just they're remaking it, and that they almost like have disowned this edition, kind of makes me sad because I freaking loved everything about it. Anyway, moving on. Pandemonium. I played the PC. Oh god, my brother with his freaking tape. I played the PC version of this on the channel right at the start of the channel, and that video still gets a lot of views. Shockingly, this game actually brings up in a fair amount of attention for some reason. I have no idea why. But I loved this game, Pandemonium. It's still arriving. It's actually supposed to have already been got here by now, but it isn't here yet. I actually recently picked up Pandemonium 2, which is way rarer than this game. Yeah, this is another game that it came out early PlayStation. We didn't get it until it had already gone platinum. Pandemonium is a really cool game. Like 2.5D platformer where if you play as the woman, you have double jumps. If you play as the Harlequin, the woman, you have double jumps. And if you play as the Joker character, you play as the Jester. I forget what his name is. Fargus? I don't remember. If you play as him, he can throw his cane and it damages enemies. She doesn't have any like attack by default, so if she doesn't have any magic, you have to jump on their heads or find some magic to attack. But yeah, so really cool game. If you want to go check it out, I'll try and remember to leave a card up here. for you to go check out that video. It's a really old video with a really crazy thumbnail. Alright, next up, we've got Spire the Dragon. This is a recent acquisition. Once again, we could never find Spire the Dragon in stores. By the time we got a PlayStation, we got Spyro 2 shortly after we got our PlayStation, so that's sort of the time frame. Spyro the Dragon had been around for a while, and it just didn't really exist in stores anymore by the time we came around to it. Once again, I got a Platinum Edition version of this. I'm currently in an auction for a regular black case version, but I don't really care about winning that one. If I win it at a low cost, then I'll be happy, but if I don't win it, I won't actually care, because I don't really care that much about getting a black label edition. There's just a few scratches on the back, unfortunately, of this case. Otherwise, in pretty good condition. Then we got Spyro 2. This game, once again, played this to death. Oh, I just noticed my phone is overheating, apparently. Well, we're just going to power through it. So, Spyro 2, we got this shortly after it came out, I think, or, shortly after we got a PlayStation 1. Played this game to death. Loved the shit out of it. Was really happy that they remade all 3 of the Spyro games. Which leads me onto Spyro Year of the Dragon. Which, once again, we also got when it was originally out. Oh my god, the disc isn't in here. God damn it. There's a few games where the discs are missing, and I just have to find them. We have them. They're around the home somewhere. I just don't know where. But yeah, it doesn't seem to have a manual with it, unfortunately. We must have lost it at some point. Okay, we're back. I had to stop the recording for a second, because I needed to transfer some stuff. Because the SD was full, and it was overheating. So, next up, another new acquisition. Siphon Filter 1. This, once again, is another game that I played the shit out of as a kid, but then we never owned it. I played the demo of this game so many times, and every time we'd hire it from the video store or borrow it from, I don't think any of our friends had it actually, so it was just hiring it from the video store. I'd hire it over and over again. Loved the game, never could buy it. The reason I actually played that game, though, was because we also had Siphon Filter 2. Siphon Filter 2 is, just probably the better version of Siphon Filter 1, with some upgraded things to it, but it was mostly just an immediately made sequel to the first game, that I loved both of them. Funny story, though, this has the Siphon Filter 3 disc in it, because, for whatever reason, Siphon Filter 2 came with a special... I don't know if this is actually even the original case. It came with a double... It was in the thin cases, but it had a double disc system inside it. But Siphon Filter 3, for some reason, comes in a fat case with space for two or more discs. But Siphon Filter 3 only has one disc, so we put the Siphon Filter 2 discs in the Siphon Filter 3 case because it has the space for it. So, just to add to the confusion, we have Siphon Filter 2 in Siphon Filter 3's case, and Siphon Filter 3 in Siphon Filter 2's case. Siphon Filter 3 was the far inferior game of the first 3. Siphon Filter 2 was probably the best. Siphon Filter 1 was great as well. Siphon Filter 3 was meh. But I played all 3 of them, to death. Now, Tekken 1. This we didn't get until way later. I believe I bought this. Most of these games were bought by my brother, or, they were bought for us as kids, but I believe I bought this game. Mainly because I loved Tekken 3, and I wanted to play more Tekken stuff, and I saw a copy of Tekken 1 in one of the stores, and so I bought it. It's pretty mangled now. I don't think... It might have even been secondhand when I originally bought it. It might have been secondhand at the video... at, the EB Games that I bought it from, or wherever, or Central Park, whatever the case. Didn't love this game a whole lot. I feel like Tekken 1 is of course, it's the first one in the series. It was very clunky. It was a very clunky fighting game. On the other hand, Tekken 2, I'll take out these two at the same time. Tekken 2 was immensely better. Once again, though, this is a very recent acquisition. We never owned the cameras picking up Heihachi's face. It can recognize his face. Tekken 2 was a great game with way better functionality than the first Tekken, but once again, hard to come by, hard to find for some reason. We were never able to buy it. It was one of the first games my brother saw being played on PlayStation. A friend of his or a cousin of ours was playing Tekken 2 at their house, and that was what convinced my parents when my brother got picked up from his friend's house. My brother was probably raving about Tekken 2 and the PlayStation, and so my parents bought him, but also me, PS1 for Christmas that year. So Tekken 2 has a special place in my heart, even though I've rarely ever played this. I've only played this a couple times in my life. So I've just got this copy recently. I'd like to give it another go at some point. I'd like to give a lot of these games another go at some point. But Tekken 3. This is the game. We played this to death. Played this so much. It doesn't seem to even have the manual anymore. We played so much of this game. I unlocked all the special characters. I unlocked Gon and Dr. Boskonovich and stuff like that. Played all the possible modes. Played that to death. It's a classic. This is probably one of the best classic PS1 games. Tekken 3 was where it all came together, and all the functions, the form, and the style were at their peak for Tekken. Now we've got another case with nothing in the side of it because it's a rare find, special purchase. Tombi. The first Tombi game. This game is so rare to come by. I remember this isn't a recent acquisition, but it is. I got it a few years back. I got it about probably 5 years ago, well after PlayStation 1, existed properly. This game is it's so rare to come by. This is actually a copy that seems to be from a Civic Video, which is a rental place. Oh, United Video. That's it. United Video. The manual's still it's not mint condition, but it still holds together. It has no cover. The case is not original, and the disc has writing on it, which is really annoying. It's a number and United Video, Newtown. But I was so glad to get a copy of it because Tombi, once again, one of my absolute favorite games of all time. But we never owned it. It was almost impossible to find in store. For whatever reason, this game was not even my brother could find this game before I even knew what Tombi, before I even knew to look for games at game stores. He was trying to find Tombi and he couldn't find it. Love this game to death. This is another game that, along with Abe's Odyssey, or Abe's Exodus, is a game that informed my tastes, informed my wants, and informed my interests in games for years to come. I still want to make a game. I want to make a clone of this, or I'd love to work on a studio that remasters Tombi. If ever there's a want for a Tombi remaster or HD remake of this game, I would love to be a part of it. Because holy shit, this game is awesome. Anyway, moving on. As you can see there already, I managed to get a pretty good copy of Tombi 2. Tombi 2 is less hard to come by. Has the manual and cover, and the disc is good, and it has the back cover as well. This game wasn't as well received as Tombi 1. I still love the shit out of it, but I also think Tombi 1 is superior. It's a 3D version of what was a 2D game, Tombi 1. It's just a really cool game. It's got real cool music. I tear up when I hear the music from the start of this game. This was acquired around the same time I acquired Tombi 1, so about 5 years ago. This is another game that I was so glad to find. Apparently, my brother, around the time when he was looking for Tombi 1, he found Tombi 2 in stores, but he didn't buy it for whatever reason. And that has upset me for years. Okay. Another recent acquisition, Tony Hawk Skateboarding. It's impossible to find Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, which is the one that I would want to get. I never played this original game. I played a demo for it, way back in the day, but I never played the actual game. Played the shit out of Tony Hawk's 2. Once again, I would love to return and play this. This literally arrived yesterday. I just got this. I really want to find a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 somewhere, but for some reason I can only find the first game. First game's still really cool. Has a lot of cool levels, but I have never played the proper copy of the original Tony Hawk Skateboarding, so I'm really keen to give this a try. Now, basically last but not least, we've got Worms Armageddon. This is the first Worms game I ever played, and I love this Worms game. It has some of the coolest stuff in it. It's definitely the first... Oh god, big grease stain on that. It's definitely... It's the first Worms game that, like, had all the hallmarks of a modern Worms game. So, this was the first game to bring in the, like, devastating weapons, like the Concrete Donkey and the Meteor Strike and stuff like that. This was the game for, like, Worms stuff. And it has all the classic, like, look and style and stuff like that. The previous Worms games... especially the first Worms games, was very different. Had a completely different style to it. This game, I feel like, was the one where they really nailed it. And then Worms World Party was like the follow-up that just expanded on what Worms Armageddon did, and just went even further with it. Worms World Party was a really cool game, but I owned that on PC, not on PlayStation. And then, as a bonus entry, this is a game, Frenzy. This is a really weird game. I bought it, once again, I bought this a bunch of years back, probably like 5 or 6 years ago, just because I was like, shit, I remember that game. I wonder if it exists on Trade Me, and I found a copy of it, but it came with only the manual and the disc. I have since actually found a proper copy of this game, and so I'm actually planning to get that in, like, with proper case and stuff, and I'm going to sell this copy, because it's, you know, inferior. But this game is such a weird game. I played it at my neighbor's house. My neighbor had this game along with another game called Overboard, which I'd love to find on Trade Me at some point. But yeah, this game was like, you play as this, like, little airplane, and you just fly around weird spaces, just shooting everything to bits. And the reason I remembered it, the reason I remember it so fondly, is that one of the levels is like a Christmas themed level, and the first boss, there's like bosses. The first boss of this level, of the Christmassy themed level, is a giant refrigerator. And then one of the later bosses is like Santa, or maybe it's the same boss that is like a Santa Claus that is running around and you shoot him to bits. So yeah, it's just really crazy, hectic, chaotic madness, like, plane shooter game. Yeah. So, that's all of the games from my collection. For my PS1 collection, that is. As you can see, like, down there, there's PS2. Behind all the PS1, there's PS2. Up here behind the plush toys, there's PS3 and PS4. More PS3 up behind those plush toys. And then you got, like, PC stuff over here, and Blu-ray movies, and books, and all sorts. Simpsons stuff, as you've probably been seeing this in the background a bunch. Maggie from one of the series of The Simpsons. So yeah, let me know if you want to see any of my other collections. I'm getting in. There's still, like, as of, like, the end of this year, this collection will grow by at least another, like, five. That's how many. It's 5 games or so, because I've got a bunch more games lined up to get. And there's a bunch of classics that I really want to find that I'm struggling to find because they're so rare. But yeah, that's it. These are all demos, by the way. These are demo discs. Ones that you might recognize are these top 2 here. We've got this is a registered users demo, which has a bunch of classics in it, and demo 1, which is the demo disc that everyone talks about. If you got a PlayStation early on, you got a demo 1 disc, and your demo 1 disc was, like, unique. There were, like, 3 different demo 1 demo discs, and this is the one that I know most people had. Has stuff like frickin' Medieval and Cooler World. Cooler World is a game that I'd love to add to my collection, but there was one on sale, or the one being sold recently, but it went for $120 or $130, and I just don't have the I'm just not willing to pay that much for anything, game-wise. But yeah, this demo has a really cool cover, and it has a bunch of cool classic games on it. And it's actually the demo disc that I remember as being the first demo I ever played. It had like a bunch of game stuff on it. But yeah, anyway. That concludes my collection. I want to say short video, but it was actually pretty long. Pretty sure this video is over half an hour now. So, I hope you enjoyed seeing my PS1 collection. If you want to see any of my other collections, PS2, PS3, or etc., let me know in the comments down below. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys are enjoying learning a little bit more about me and about my hobbies and my weirdness. If you like what you saw, hit like. If you want to see more from me, then subscribe. Until the next episode of Getting to Know Rorius. Bye, guys.